Okay, so today we're gonna go through the last review questions. So let me go ahead, share my screen in here, trying to see if you can see that. Okay, can everyone see my screen now? Give me a thumbs up if you can see that, or type it in the chat or whatever. Can you see the screen? Can everyone see the screen? Or can you all hear me? Okay, all right, okay, good. All right, so I'm going to start with section 4.1. Basically, the chapter 5 and 4 are very, very similar. Okay, these two are very similar. In this case, the one thing here is you do need to be able to solve the linear equation. Okay, so you have two different ways, basically, or three different ways to solve the linear equation. You said this one solve the equation by elimination. Sometimes you also have a substitution, right? But you don't really have to on the test. You can do any way you want. You can do the elimination, you can do the substitution, or you can even use the calculator using matrix. Okay, and I'll show you how to use matrix using computer as well. So let's go ahead do by the requirement in here. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, you don't have to. We actually not really limit which method you use. All right, as long as you can solve, that's fun. So I'm going to start with 4.1 first, right? So what is the elimination? That means I have an x minus 5y equal to 35. 5x minus 4y equal to 28. So the elimination, that means you will create like a 3x and something, and then the second one, you're going to have a negative 3x, right? So you eliminate x. So x and x are going to be canceled out. Okay, so the exact opposite will be canceled out in here. I usually like to number these equations. So this is number one, this is number two, right? And in order for me to cancel one out, I will go to get a x exactly opposite. If I want to get a y exact opposite, I need to find the LCM of the y, this common multiple for the y, which is 5 and 4, the multiply will be 20. So I have to multiply both sides to get a 20, right? So that is a little bit more work than if I can eliminate x first. Okay, I'm going to eliminate x first in here. All right, so if I eliminate x first, I already have a 5x in here. I will just using the first one times negative 5. Okay, so the first equation multiply negative 5, I have a negative 5 times x minus 5y and then negative 5 times 35. You do need to multiply both sides at the same time, okay? And then you multiply it in, so I have a negative 5x, right? Negative become positive 25y. And then this will be negative 5 times 35, 35 times 5, right? 25, 15, 17, 175. Okay. Now I call this is my third equation. This third equation actually is similar from the first one. All right. And I'm going to add using 2 plus 3. Okay. So I can copy my 2 down. My 2 here is 5x minus 4y equal to 28, right? This is copied for the 2. And I'm going to add these 2 together. All right. So when I add these 2 together, I eliminate x away. Okay. So now I have a 25 minus 4, I have a 21y, right? And then 175 negative 175 plus 28. Let's see what we got in here. 7, 4. Okay, 147. Okay, negative. And then I divide both sides by so I have a negative 147, right? Negative 147 divided by 21 is giving you negative 7. All right, so I got a y equal to negative 7. So this is called using the elimination method, right? I eliminated the y, I eliminated the x, and then I solve for y. After I solve for y, we're gonna by substitute y, okay? By substitution, y equal to 7, negative 7 from the first equation, from this one, from the first equation here. So I have an x minus 5y, y is negative 7, equal to 35, right? And then I have an x plus 35 equal to 35. So x will be 0. All right, so I got this equation. Remember, we always write the x first, x and y. So x is 0, y is negative 7, and then you go to find the correct answer. All right, so that is called using the elimination method. Elimination, that means you make one variable exact opposite, right? I'm making x exact opposite. I have a 1x here, I have a 5x here. So 1 and 5 for the common multiply will be 5. So I only need to multiply the first one. I leave the second one untouched. If you want to eliminate the y first, it will be a little bit more trouble because you have to multiply both. You have to multiply the first one by 4, multiply the second one by negative 5. So can make an exact 20y opposite that way. All right, so you always choose the best way to do. So that is called the elimination method, okay? And another method is called a substitution method. All right, I'm not using the same one. So what is a substitution? Substitution method, substitute, okay? Substitute, I can, using the first one, I solve for x. So I have x minus 5y equal to 35, right? I can add a 5y on both sides. So my x will be 5y plus 35. And then I am going to get it from 2. 2 here is 5x minus 4y equal to 28, right? Now instead of 5x, I'm using the 5y plus 35. And that way you can see I only have a y there. Okay, I only have a y there. I can solve for y in here. So this one is called using the substitution method. The only time you use the substitution method is you can find like a 1x or 1y, right? So you don't have to deal with the fraction, okay? If there's a fraction here, if you don't have a 1x or 1y to solve, it's probably easier to use in the elimination. All right. So that is 2 different ways you solve manually. Any question about this one? I hope most of you already, finished the homework assignment, right? Tomorrow is the last day, so you will need to finish the finish the test by tomorrow. All right. Okay, let's see. Do we have one more 4.1? Okay, this one is also 4.1 in here. Okay, so solving this one by substitution. Yeah. So number 9, substitution will be really easy because you have a y equal to negative 3, right? And then just go to the first one right here. Go to the first one. X minus 3 times y is negative 3 equal to 14. So you have x plus 9 equal to 14. X will be 5, right? So write down the order pair x first. X and y. Order pair is always x and y. X is 5. Y is negative 3. All right, so now you can go to choose the correct answer. Okay, so that is the substitution method. Okay, another 4.1 right here. This is solving by elimination, right? Yeah, this elimination will be also really easy, okay? Because you have x plus y equal to 9, x minus y equal to 9. I'll just add these two together, right? And then y and y gonna be canceled out. When I add these two together, y and y cancel out. So I have a 2x equal to 18, right? And x will be equal to 9 if you add them together. All right. And then you can put it into x equal to 9 into the first one right here. So 9 plus y equal to 9. So y should be 0. So you have a 9 and 0. Always write down in an order pair. Your order pair is always x first, y second. Okay? Because look at that. You have a 9, 0, 0, 9. So if you are not careful, you will choose the wrong answer. Okay? So always write down x first, y second. All right, so that is 4.1. Let's see, do we have any more 4.1? No? Okay, so those are the 4.1. The reason I want to go through this in order because it is easier for you to read. You know, when you're doing the review, right? When you do the test, of course, you have a chapter 4 and 5 together, so it doesn't matter which order that way. All right, let's look at the 4.2, okay? 4.2, write down the arguments matrix for the system. So the argument matrix here is using the coefficient. You don't have x and y, so this is the coefficient, only using the coefficient. And then you using the x and y or x1, x2, you really have to line up. So this will be 8, 9, and this is 117, right? And the second one will be 4, 6, 66. So you can write down on your own and then go to make the correct answer, right? So this one correct answer should be C. So you have an 8, 9, 117, 4, 6, 66. So when you write down, you have to be very careful. X1 and X1 need to line up. If it didn't line up, you have to put in the order first before you write a matrix. Okay. So why we want to write down this kind of matrix? Because you can using the matrix calculation to solve the equation really easily. Okay, so that's why how do you write down a matrix is very important in this case. All right, so 4.2, already got a 4.1, 4.2, okay. So you want to write down a system of the equation associated with this matrix. Do not try to solve, okay? So this one, you only need to write down the matrix, just the opposite of the first one, right? So basically, this one using x1, 2, 3. So if I just look at this matrix in here, all right? So that's 3x1 plus 3x2. This is all the coefficient, right? Plus 5x3 is equal to -2, okay? And then this one, the second row, fourth column, second row is 5x1 plus 0x2 plus 7x3 equal to 4. And sometimes, you know, in the practice, we don't have to write down the 0, so we can just eliminate this one right here, right? But when you do the matrix, you do have to supply the 0 for the missing term, okay? That's very important. Okay, the third row here is 3x1 plus 6x2 plus 0x3 equal to 2. Again, we don't have to write down the 0, but when you do the matrix, you do have to supply the missing term. Okay, and then you go to check the correct answer in this case, right? So if you look at this one right here, there's a 335, and then this is 574. 3x1. Okay, so you can see the first one, you have to be very careful. The first one is missing the -2 in here. Look at that. This is to be -2. This one is +2. Otherwise, the rest of this is the same. All right. So we have to go to choose the correct one. This one got a little bit cut off. So, but anyhow, you can just knowing this one, the correct answer should be B, but it got chopped off for this equal to -2. Okay. This should be didn't print it. All of them didn't print it up in here. On the test, you won't have this problem because I just got a screenshot, got a convert it into PDF. That's why it got cut off. All right, so that is this one right here. As long as you know how to write down a matrix, you can always go to find the correct answer. Okay, one of the answer will be correct. Okay, so that is 4.2. How do you write down a matrix, right? And let's go to look at the 4.2 in here. Another 4.2 in here, right? Write down the matrix for this system. Write down the argument matrix for this one. Okay, so how do I write down the matrix? As I mentioned earlier, if I have a missing term, I have to subtract with 0. So basically, this one is 6x1 plus 4x2 equal to 30, right? I don't have a x1 right here, so I need to have a 0x1 basically plus 8x2 equal to 72. And then just go to write down matrix without a x1, x2. So that's 6, 4, and 30, right? And then this one will be 0, 8, and 72. And then you can go to choose the correct answer in this case. Okay. And then go to choose your own case in here. In this one, 6, 4, 30, 0, 8, and 72. So that should be the correct answer, right? Once you can write down your matrix, that's easy to choose the right one. Okay. All right, another 4.2 right here. Solve this linear corresponding to the following argument matrix. All right, so what does this mean in here? This one right here, that means if you write down the 13, write down the equation, right? This will be 3x1 plus 6x2 equal to 24. And then the second one will be 2x1 plus 3x2 equal to 11. So if you write down the equation, it will be this one. So you're going to basically solve for x1 and x2, right? You will solve for the x1 and x2, just like the system we solved earlier, okay? And this one, so basically, if you solve for this one right here, I can use any method in this case, right? I can use addition, subtraction, right? Like I say, I'm going to eliminate my x2 first. So I'm going to multiply this whole thing by -2, right? If I multiply by -2, I'll be able to cancel out the x2. So this will be -4x1 minus 6x2 equal to -22, right? So that's my second equation. And I add to the first one, in here. So this x2 and x2, this will be canceled out. This will be canceled out. So I have a 3x1 plus this -4x1. So I have a -x1, right? This is gone. This is gone. This is gone, right? And then I have a 24 minus plus -22, so that would be 2, right? And then my x1 here will be -2, okay? My x1 here is -2. All right, so what is my x2? I can choose anyone to do the calculation. So if I plug it into this one right here, right? So 3 times -2 plus 6x2 should be 24, right? And this is -6 plus 6x2 equal to 24. You will be able to add a 6 on both sides, so it should be 30. So your x2 here will be 5. So x1 is -2, x2 is 5. All right, because after you solve, you still have 2 of them. X1 is all -2, right? So you still have to solve for y to see which one is the correct one. Okay, so y here is positive. So that is how you use this one. You can also use a low calculation, okay? So what is the low calculation? If I have this matrix, 3, 11, all right, if I can simplify into 1, 0, and then maybe, A, some kind of answer, A, and then 0, 1, and then answer B, right? So what is this? This is called the unit matrix right here. So that means I have a x1, 1x1 plus 0x2 equal to A, right? So that means this x1 will be equal to A. Similar, if I have this kind of matrix, that means my x2 will be equal to B, okay? So that is this kind of matrix. If you go to using a low calculation, or you can using a calculator to solve this one really, really easily. Okay. And then I was showing you how to using the calculator to solve this kind of matrix. Actually, all the one we talked earlier, or every question we talked earlier, you can always write down a matrix just like that, and then using calculator to solve. Okay, so let's go ahead, open the calculator, and you will love this one a lot after you know that. That's why I don't really want to show you right away until we go through several methods, right? Okay, so first, if you want to use the calculator, you have to find a matrix, okay? The matrix here is in a blue color, so you need to have a second x inverse, so that's matrix, all right? You have to work on the right to left. So basically, you have to go to the edit to input a matrix. Okay, so if I want to input my matrix into matrix A, you have to know which one you're doing, right? So I input my matrix into matrix A, and then you have to give the matrix the size. So what is my size here? Size is the row and then column. So I have 2 rows, 3 columns, so that's 2 by 3. So you input 2 by 3, right? And then I already have at least 2 by 3 here, and then you just retype your coefficient as 3, 6, 24, and then 2, 3, 11. All right, so that is my matrix. Now you can reuse this matrix. I just have to retype my matrix in here. And as I mentioned earlier, we're gonna come back to solve this matrix. And remember, we input into the matrix A. All right, so go to second matrix again. This time I want to use math, okay? Math will be able to solve the matrix, okay? And this one, it will solve the matrix by itself using the load reference, RREF. So this function you really want to remember. Load reference, right? And then load reference, I need to go to see which matrix I have. Well, I input the matrix A, so I go to second matrix from my name. My name here is in A. Okay, so close my parentheses. Oh, hold on. All right, I have to come back to the main screen to do this. So I'm going to check my A here. Enter. Oh, my A is still right there, right? So this is the matrix I input earlier. So yeah, A is still there. So I don't have to re-input that. So I need to come back to the main screen in order to do the math calculation. So second more, you can always, second more is quick, right? And then this is in the main screen. So now I can go to second matrix again, and then go to math. And then as I mentioned earlier, using load reference, RREF, all right? And then go to find a matrix, which is in A. So second matrix using the A, all right? And then I will here enter. Now this is my solution matrix, okay? What does this solution matrix mean? That means x1 is equal to -2, x2 is equal to 5. Or you can have x equal to -2, y is 5, whatever you want to consider, all right? So it is exactly the same as we solve this one by hand. Look at it. The one we solved by hand, -2 and 5, right? We just solve this one right here. And then this one is -2 and 5, okay? So if you have this 1, 0, 0, 1, that is your solution, okay? Any questions? Anyone has any questions? Okay, so that is very quick and easy to using the matrix to solve. Okay, so you can see, the one we have earlier, this one right here, I can write down matrix. This one I can write down matrix. Every one of these I can write down matrix and solve, right? This one we solved earlier would be the first one we solve. How do I write down my matrix? I can write down this one. Let's check this one using the matrix, okay? So I go to second matrix. This time I'm gonna write down my matrix into E, okay? For example, I'm gonna get a new one. Oh, hold on. Edit. Okay, I'm gonna put in a C instead. Okay, go to C. All right, so C here is a new one, so that's the default. Default is always 1 by 1, right? So I have a 2 rows, 3 columns, so I need to have a 2 enter, 3 enter. So that is my 2 by 3. Okay, so this one will be 1. This will be -5. Remember, -5, you have to use in the parentheses, -5. Okay, and then 35. All right, and then this will be 5. -4, 28. All right, so now we have a matrix, so we can solve this one. Remember, you have to second more quick to the main screen and then go to the matrix to find the math, okay? And find your function, find your matrix function, load reference, RREF. And remember, we input this one into matrix C, right? So you have to go to find a matrix is in C, okay? Because I got too many matrices here. So I input into C, I enter. And then enter. Okay, so that means the X will be 0, X will be 0, Y will be -3, right? So 1X is equal to 0, 1Y is -7. So that's this one, 0 and 7, okay? So we have a 0 and 7 very early, right? We solve this one right here. Look at that. We solve this one by elimination. And we have a 0 and -7. That's exactly the same answer, right? So all these linear equation, I can just using one function to solve everything, basically. All right. If you want to do that. Otherwise, you can do this one by any method. Okay. All right, let's see, 4.1, 4.3, okay. We said earlier, we don't really ask you any method. You can have an elimination, you have a Gauss-Jordan elimination, whatever method you want to solve, that's all fine. Or if you want to use a matrix, okay, that's totally fine. So you have so many methods to solve, okay, so many ways to solve. But this one, yeah, elimination will be really easy because by the time I put into matrix, I already done this one, right? This one is just add the two equations together. So 2x1 is already opposite and then equal to 12. X1 is already 6, right? And then the other one will be negative. X2 here will be -6. So this one should be really quick. You don't really have to input into the matrix. But if you want to input a matrix, that's fine. It will solve. But this one you can do that by hand really quick. Okay, so that's 4.3. Let's see what else. 4.3. All right, like I said, we don't really limit any method you want to solve. As long as you can solve any method, it's fun, right? So that's 4.3, pretty much similar to 4.2 and 1. 4.4, okay, you can have a matrix addition, subtraction, multiplication, or even division, okay? The matrix. So find the ABCD to make the matrix equal. Okay, so in order to add a matrix together, you have to have a same size. So what does the same size mean? Same row, same column. Okay, so that's called the same size. All right, so the way the matrix addition, it doesn't matter this one is add or subtract. You will just, if you subtract, you using subtract. If you add, you using subtraction, right? So you need to find an A, B, C, D, and then add this matrix will equal to this one right here. So basically, this first one, A, B, C, D. All right. This one is called row one. We call it A11. So what's the A11? A11 is this element here is fourth row, fourth column, right? And then this one will be A21. So in the row 2 by 4th column, so you always have a row 4th column second, right? And then this one will be A12. So where's the A12 be? A12 fourth row second column. This one will be A22, right? The position here, A22. Okay. So you have to add a same position at a matrix B. You have to have a B11, and then this one you're gonna have a B12, right? And then you have a B21, B22. Okay. All right. So if I can just put all this inside in here, A11, A12, A21, A22. Okay. All right, so what does that mean in here? That means these add up together, we are equal to the matrix, right? So A11 plus B11, we are equal to C11. All right, so this is A11 plus B11, we are equal to C11. And the rest is the same. So this one will be C12, and then this one will be C21, C22. All right, so A12 plus B12 we are equal to C12. So this position has to be the same. This one and this one is equal to this one. All right. So you add all four of them this way. Okay. A21 plus B21 is equal to C21, right? A22 plus B22 is equal to C22. All right, so once you add all this one, you look at, if this is a subtract, you just using the subtract. Okay, if this one is the subtraction, if the rest you just using subtraction. All right, multiplication and division will be a little bit different, right? But good thing is we don't involve I don't think that we involve the division in here. All right, otherwise I can talk the division and multiplication. We only using the addition and subtraction here. All right, so my A here is A11, right? A plus 0, B11 is 0, equal to C11. C11 is 3, okay? And then the B plus 5 equal B plus 5 equal to 7, right? And then this one will be C plus -4 equal to 2. And then D plus 7 equal to -1. So you can solve this one really quick and easy, right? So A will be 3, B will be 2, C will be what? 6, or D will be 8, right? And then you write down in the ABCD form, okay? So we write down this one. A here is 3, 2, C here is 6, right? You write down in the position, and then D here is 8. All right, and then you go to choose your correct one, okay? Trying to see if you can choose your correct one in here. All right, so you have a 3, 2, 6, and should be -8, yeah. I missed this one right here, right? Otherwise, so this should be -8. So that's D plus 7 equal to -1. So D should be -8. Yeah, D should be -8. All right. Okay, so that way you can find the correct answer. So that's how you do the matrix addition and subtraction. Okay. Let's see if we have any more 4.4. No? 4.4. No, so we're gonna go to the chapter 5. Okay. Chapter 5 here is the graphing. Okay, so the graphing in here basically very similar, very connect to the chapter 4, right? You also need to be able to solve the equation and then graph them. All right, you can using the calculator to help you graph it if you really want to. All right, but you still need to be able to choose the correct answer, right? So let's see if I have this one right here is bounded or unbounded. So what does bounded mean? Bounded, that means I have a limited area. Unbounded, that means I have an open area. So this is unbounded, this is unbounded, this is unbounded because they all go into the infinity in somehow, right? So let's see, do we have any bounded? Not in here. All right, so this is also unbound. This is all unbounded. Okay, so I don't have a so what does bounded mean? Let me just give you a graph to see how the bounded look like. Okay, so if I have a X and Y and then this one, so I have a 0, A, B, C. All right, and this is my interest region, right? So now this region is bounded by the x-axis, y-axis, and the line CB and the line BA. So this will be the bounded. All right, this is called a bounded region. Okay, this is a bounded region. And then you have a corner here, right? So that's one corner right here, another corner right here, another corner right here, another corner right here. Okay, and usually if you have a bounded region, you're gonna have a minimum or maximum in here, and then you will be able to go to compare each one to find a minimum and maximum. All right, so that's the bounded region. Okay, and this is unbounded because this is going to the infinity. All right. Okay, so how do you find a correct answer in here? First, you have to graph, right? Graph the solution set of the system and indicate that. So how do you graph them in here? Um, in order to graph, here you graph one by one. Okay, so you have a x equal x greater than or equal to 4y, right? So when you have an equal sign, you are using a solid line. If you don't have an equal sign, you're using a dotted line. Okay, so when you have an equal greater than or less than equal, using a solid line. Okay, if you just have a greater than or less than, you're using a dotted line. All right, so those are things, the graphing part, you do need to know. Okay, so how do I graph? So the graphing here is we always graph the equation first, and then use a testing point to test which side is the correct part. So basically, I will graph x equal to 4y first. Okay, x equal to 4y. All right, so if I solve this one right here, y will be 1 over 4x, right? And you can see what is 1 over 4x look like. When x is 0, y will be 0, okay? So this basically is kind of like this one right here, okay? Passing the 0 and 0. This is y equal to 1 over 4 of x. And you will go to see which part is the correct answer, right? So you're going to go to using a test point. Pick one test point. Okay, so using a test point, x will be greater than or equal to. So this is what? This is x equal to 4y. This one, okay, x or y equal to 1 over 4x. The reason I solve for y because if you want to put in a calculator, okay, so you have a y equal to 1 over 4, 1 over 4x, right? If you want to use calculator to graph. Okay, let me go to choose my standard. All right, so that is my y equal to 1 over 4x. You do have to solve this one in order to solve y in order to graph, right? Similar, the second one right here, if I want to graph the second one, I have to solve for y. So this y here will be 6 minus x, right? 6 minus x. And then I have to divide by the coefficient of the y, which is 4. Okay, so that's my y2. All right, so that's how the graph will look like, right? The y1 and y2. And you can see this one is just by looking at the graph, I don't even need to test the part, which side is correct. The graph doesn't look like a parallel, okay? And this one doesn't look correct either. So the looks like a, possible correct graph here is you also look at the intersection point right here. Okay, this one is very much, like I said, when I print this one, I didn't print all the graph out. So yeah. All right. So which one is the correct, which side is the correct answer. Okay, so I have this one, I have another one is somewhere right here. Another one is somehow right here, right? A little bit further. So that's the sketch. So that's my x plus 4y equal to 6. Okay, so we're going to go to say, is that the upper part or the lower part is the solution? Okay, so I'm gonna go to do the first one first. I need to have what? The first one, I need to have x is greater than or equal to 4y, right? So I usually like to pick the 0 and 0 as my testing point, but since my graph passing the 0 and 0, so I cannot use that anymore. Okay, so I'm gonna use this point. This point maybe 0 and 3. Okay, this point on the y-axis. Okay, you pick a random point to check. So when I put a 0 and 3 into this equation to see if this is true or not. So this x will be 0, greater than or equal to 4 times y, y is 3. All right, so I end up with 0 is greater than 12. All right, apparently this one is false. Okay, 0 is not greater than 12. So that means this side is not a solution. Okay, since I get a false. So what is my solution? If I want to graph x greater than or equal to 4y, so must be this part is the solution, the line below. All right, because I already tested this part is false. So false, the opposite side is the solution. Opposite side, you don't have to do another test. If you test this point here is true, now this side will be the solution. But since I test this point is false, so the other side is the solution, right? And then we go to graph the line 2, just repeat the process, okay? My line 2, as I mentioned earlier, I have this L2. Line 2 is x plus 4y equal to 6. But I want to test this one is less than or equal to 6. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, I like to using the 0 and 0 to do the test because it's easy to calculate. X is 0, Y is 0. The reason I couldn't do the first one because the first one it passed this point, so I cannot use that for the first line. But I can do that for the second line, right? So x is 0, 0 plus 4 times 0, 0 plus 4 times 0, still 0, less than or equal to 6. Yes, 0 is, 4 times 0 is 0. So 0 less than or equal to 6, that's true. Okay, so true, that means this side is the solution. For the blue one, the bottom part is the solution, right? But we have to satisfy the first one and the second one. So that means the overlap. So where is the overlap? This part right here didn't have overlap. All right. So my overlap right here will be only here, only with the first one. Okay. Only with the first one right here. All right. So that look like this one looks like a match this description. All right. So that is how you do this one right here. Okay. Any questions? Anyone has any questions? All right, so that's the graphing. Graphing is very important because our next section, you will need to find this corner point. The first thing you need to do is graphing. Okay, so that's 5.2. Let's see if we have any more 5.2. Otherwise, we'll be going to the 5.3. Okay, another 5.2 right here. Okay, so this one you want to graph y greater than -2, x greater than or equal to -4, right? So this one should be really easy. First, how do you graph this one right here? Well, I can do my graph really quicker in here. Okay, I graph y equal to -2 first. Okay, so remember, if you want to graph the inequality, you always graph the equal sign first, and then go to check which part is a solution. Okay, So y equal to -2, this is -1, -2. You don't have an x term, so this is a horizontal line, right? Okay. Oh, I don't have an equal sign here, so I have to use in the dot line. Remember, we said earlier, don't have an equal sign, so this need to be dotted line. All right, so that's y. I want to have a y, this is y equal to -2. I graph this horizontal line by using the dotted line, right? But I want to mark which part y is greater than -2. All right, so you can see this one should be really easy. Anything above is greater than -2. Anything below is less than -2. So this should be really easy, right? So everything on the top, everything on the top, everything on the top. Or you can use the 0 right here, right? You don't have an x, this is 0. 0 is 0 greater than -2. It is true, 0 is greater than -2. So this side, upper part is the solution, right? Yeah. So that is the first one. And then you're gonna go to graph x equal to -4. Okay, x equal to -4 should be a vertical line. So that's -1, 2, 3, 4, right? So x equal to -4 is a vertical line, vertical. All right, so it's a vertical line in here. Okay, so let's give me a little bit different color. All right, so this is a vertical line. All right, so this is x equal to -4, right? It's a vertical line. I want to have x is greater than or equal to negative. So this one is a solid line, greater than or equal to -4. So if I using the 0 in here, y is also 0. This is 0, 0, right? I don't have a y in here. So if I using this 0 side is 0 greater than or equal to -4, the answer is true. Okay, so that means this part is the solution. This part is the solution. Okay, everything to the right is a solution, right? But I also have to satisfy both of them. So satisfy both of them. So this also have to be in here. Okay, you can see the blue and the red overlap is right here. Okay, it's right here. Oh, all right, it's right here, right? So this part. So this part from here to here to here to here. This whole thing is the solution right here, but not this part, not on the left. All right. So now you can go to choose to see which one will be the solution right here, right? So you can tell like this should be the right one. Okay. You can tell I have this one right here. So this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is the right one. Okay. Y greater than, so this is the dotted line, this is a solid line, so that's exactly right. Okay, and this one is unmounted, right? It's unmounted, yeah, because this is gonna go all the way up, all the way up. There's not a reason mounted in here. All right, so if you know how to do the graphing, the last section calculation should be really easy. So 5.3 will be using the 5.2 to do the calculation, right? So we have a little bit calculation in here. You want to find a minimum and maximum. In this case, these two are very similar, right? So using the graphing method to solve the linear programming, minimize z equal to 4x plus 5y subject to these 3 or 4 conditions, right? You have a x need to be greater than or equal to 0. Y also need to be greater than or equal to 0. So that's the fourth quadrant. And also have these two, okay? So that's why graphing will be really important in here. So let's really make a graphing in this case. You're gonna have an x greater than or equal to 0, y greater than or equal to 0, right? And so this x greater than or equal to 0 will be the upper part, y greater than or equal to 0 will be the right-hand side part. So basically, you only using the fourth quadrant. This is your Q2, Q3, fourth quadrant. Fourth quadrant, x is positive, y is negative, right? third quadrant, both x and y are negative. This one, x is negative, y is positive, right? Only this one is positive and positive. So if you want both the x and y are greater than or equal to 0, it's only the Q1, the fourth quadrant. Okay, and then we also have x. We also have this 2x, okay? 2x minus 4y need to be less than or equal to 10. I can divide by both sides by 2, and 2 is positive, so I don't have to change the inequality direction, so it'll be easier. All right, so this one will be changing to x minus 2y less than or equal to 5. Okay, I just simplify this one a little bit, so it will be easier to do the calculation. If you don't want to simplify, that's fine. Okay, so basically I need to go to graph the equal sign first. Graph the equal sign first. X minus 2y equal to 5, right? And if you want to put in a calculator, you do need to solve for y. So y will be x minus 5 over 2, x minus 5 over 2. So this is similar to this one right here, right? And you can go to put this one in a calculator if you want, okay? So clear everything out. And then we have a x minus 5 divided by 2. Okay, and then we hit graphing. So you can see this is how the graph will look like, right? So when x is 5, y is 0. Okay, when x is 5, y is 0. So we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then when x is 0, y is negative 2.5 right here, right? So you have this 2 point. And then we do have an equal sign, so you can use a solid line. Oh, what? Let's connect these two together, okay? You got an idea. This should be a little bit more straight in here. Okay, so that is equal sign, right? But I want to have an x minus 2y have to be less than or equal to 5. So since this point is 0 and 0, 0 and 0, this point is not on the line. So I like to use this point because it's easy to calculate. 0 minus 0, still 0. 0 less than or equal to 5. Is that true? Yeah, it is true. So what does that mean? That means this side is a solution. All right. But I also want the x and y need to be positive. So I only consider the fourth quadrant. So that means the fourth quadrant is right here. Okay. So this is my fourth quadrant right here. All right. This point is 5 and 0. Okay. So that is my fourth graph. Okay. All right. And then I will have my second graph in here. My second graph here need to be what? 2x plus y need to be greater than or equal to 15, right? We solved the first one. Now we're going to get a second one right here. So second one right here is 2x plus y need to be greater than or equal to 15. Again, if you want to, we graph the equal sign first, okay? If you want to solve for y, y will be 15 minus 2x, so I can put in a calculator. Okay, if I really want to using a calculator to graph. All right, so that's 15 minus 2x. And then we graph. Okay, so that is my graph in here, right? 15 minus 2x. Okay, so this like this will be 6, 7, 8. This will be somewhere right here. Y is 0, this will be 7.5, right? When x is 0, y will be 15. So this will be a little bit up here, a little bit up here. All right, so this one here is I need to have a 2x plus y need to be greater than or equal to 15, right? And again, this point is not on the line. So I like to use the 0, 0 to do the test. Okay, so 0, 2 times 0 is just, is 0 greater than or equal to 15? The answer will be false. Okay, so what does false mean? That means this side is not a solution. So my solution should be this side. My solution should be this side. All right, since we only graph the fourth quadrant in here. Okay, so where is my common overlap? My overlap here will be not in here, right? Because my fourth one is only right here. Okay, my fourth one only start right here. So that's my overlap section. Okay, this is my overlap section in here. All right, so should be somewhere starting from here, and then all the way. Of course, this is unbounded, right? Because this one right here, this is unbounded, and maybe this point, maybe this is a minimum. We don't know, or maximum, depends on what they ask. This one maybe the minimum or max, maybe the minimum here. So let's see what the question asked in here. Okay, so we have using this graphing method to solve this one. You want to minimize, yeah, we want to minimize this one. Okay, so looks like yeah, this point will be the minimum value. Maybe another point right here, another corner point right here, right? So we have one intersection. We call this is A, and then this one is B. Okay, so we have two interesting points. We need to find the A and B and then compare, solve the z equal to, we want to minimize this one. So we're gonna make a table in here, right? We're gonna have x and y, and then we're gonna have a z equal to 4x plus 5y. We want to minimize the z, okay? So let's see what's the point in A, and then what's the point in B, x, and y, okay? So this one, that's why graphing is so important, right? So this point, it doesn't matter. This point doesn't matter anymore. So we need to find out the right line with the y-intercept. Y-intercept, x will be 0. So this y will be what? If you solve this one right here, this one is the y-intercept. So y-intercept here, x is 0. So look at it. If x is 0, y must be 15, right? So that is 0, and that's point B. Okay, point B here is 0 and 15. And then we're gonna go to plug it into Z. How much is my Z here? My Z here will be 4 times 0, right? X is 0 plus 5 times y here is 15, and 4 times 0 is 0. So this one will be 5, will be 75. Okay, so this Z, this corner point for the BG is 75. And I need to go to find the A so I can find my this G. Okay, so how do I find my A here? The A here is the intersection for these two lines. Okay, so you can use the matrix to solve if you want, actually. Okay, as you have to have an equation. So this equation here will be 2x minus 4y equal to 10. 2x plus y equal to 15, right? 2x, 2x. Well, since I both have a 2x here, so I might easily to just do this one by hand, or you can put in a calculator, right? So if I do this one by hand, it would be really easy. I'm going to just multiply both sides by -1 on this. So this will be -2x plus 4y equal to -10. Remember, this also need to multiply this. And I just add these two together, so this will be canceled out. So I have a 5y equal to 5, so y will be 1, right? And then I can input into the first one or the second one, you put into the second one, 2x plus 1 equal to 15. So 2x will be 14, x will be 7. So this one will be 7 and 1, x and y, right? So 7 and 1. All right, and then we just calculate this one right here. So this will be 4 times 7 plus 5 times 1, right? So that is 28 plus 5, which is 33. You want to find the minimum, so this one is the minimum. All right, so this one minimum here happen at what? Minimum happen here at x equal to 7, y equal to 1. Minimum happen here is x equal to 7, y equal to 1. And my minimum value here is 33. So minimum value here is 33 in here. So that is the correct answer. All right, so that's how you solve for this kind of 5.3. Any questions so far? Anyone has any questions? No, no questions. All right, so let's do one more in here, right? This one will be 5.35. So it's very similar. Let's just repeat the same thing as we did earlier. This time I can use in a calculator, okay, to find the intersection point in here. So basically similar process, okay? Number 4. We want to maximize z equal to ax plus 12y, right? And then we have a 40x plus 80y need to be less than or equal to 560. We have a 6x plus 8y need to be less than or equal to 72. I think both x and y need to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so same thing, you're gonna go to do a little bit graphing and you're only interested in X and Y, only interested in Q1 right here. And you can go to using a calculator to graph, okay? So if you want to do we're gonna call this is line 1, this is line 2, right? So line 1, you solve for Y if you're using a calculator. So we have a 40, we have a 80y we are equal to 560 minus 40, right? And y will be 560x, oh, I'm sorry, 40x, okay, minus 40x divided by 80. So that's y1, right? And then line 2, we're going to have a y2. So y2 will be 72 minus 6x divided by 8, okay? So I can do the graphing first, and then we're gonna come back to do the matrix to do the calculation. Okay. So now we're gonna graph this one right here, right? So if I go to my first one right here, I can do my vertical one. Okay. So if I do this vertical one, I don't have to use the parentheses. Okay, 560 minus 40x, and then divided by 80. All right. The second one, if I don't have this vertical one, now I need a parenthesis, right? 72 minus 6x, and then divided by 8. All right, so I have a blue one, I have a red one. Okay, so blue one, red one, so somewhere right here. All right, so if I do a little bit drawing right here, will be something like that, right? Let's see, the blue one looks like something like that. And then the red one looks something like that. Okay, so it's a sketch in this case. All right, so that's blue one, that's red one, and the blue one is the L1. Blue one is the L1. Blue one is the L1. Red one is the L2. Red one is, so you need to know which graph will look like, right? So we all want a positive. We all want a Q1. And let's see which one is the interesting reason, right? So that means 0 and 0 is not on the line. So I can use the 0 and 0 for both of them to do the test. So if you plug x equal to 0 in, 0 plus 0 less than 556, that's true. So that means this one is the solution. This one is the solution, right? And if I plug it into the right one right here, 0 and 0 plus 0 plus 0 less than 72 is also true. So this is also the one is the solution. So where's the overlap part? This side is the overlap part. Look at that, this one. This is a mounted region. So this is called mounted region, right? So we have this mounted region. We have this is point A. We have this one is point B. And then we also have this point right here. We're going to call this is point P. Point P is the intersection for the L1 and L2. All right, so now we're going to need to go to find our corner point. This is the corner point or our interesting point, right? This is the interest point we need, okay? So we will set up the x and y in here and then find our z is equal to ax plus 12y. We want to find a maximum. Okay, and of course we're gonna have this fourth point here is 0 and 0, right? We also need to include 0 and 0 because if you want to find a minimum, that might be the point. All right, but we want to find a maximum, so this one probably not a point right here, but that's okay. We're gonna go to find the A point, and then we're gonna go to find the B point, and the most important one, we have to find a point P. Okay, point P in here. All right, so where's my point A? You can tell the point A is the line 1 with the y-axis, line 1. So which one is the line 1? This is your line 1. So with the y-axis here, x will be 0. So x will be 0, right? X is 0, and then how much is y? You're going to have a AT, so you're going to have a ATY equal to 5, 6, 6, 0, 0, and cancel out, right? So 56 divided by 8 would be what? 7. Okay. All right. And then the point B here actually is the what? Point B here is the line L2. L2. That's why the graphing is so important. L2 is the x-axis. So the x-axis here, y will be 0. Okay. And how much is my x? So you're going to go to line 2. This is your L2, right? 6x y will be 0. So you're going to have a 6x equal to 72 divided by 6. So you're going to have a 12. Okay, so that is your point B. So you have to be very careful. Point B is the L2 with the x-axis L2. L2 is right here. This one is your L2, line 2, with the x-axis right here. Okay, all right, so how do I find my point P here? If I really don't want to do this one by hand, I can write down a matrix. Okay, so I'm gonna using a matrix to solve this one. Or I think another way in here is you probably can go to, let me see. You can find an intersection in here. So let me go to see if we go to math. Okay, all right. I can find a matrix because sometimes the problem here is using the intersection point here is when it's not a number, it might not giving you the exact number, right? So using matrix is always the safe way. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna go to the edit, and I'm gonna just input in A. So this matrix will be 2 by 3, which is true, right? So I'm gonna just enter, and then this will be my x. So 40. And then y here is 80 by 60, and then this will be 6, 8, and 72. Okay, all right, so that's my matrix, and I'm gonna go to find my intersection, right? And as we said earlier, go to my main screen and then go to find go to my main screen and go to the matrix to find the math. Okay, go to the matrix to find the math, and then using your no reference, And remember, go to find your matrix. Then again, I input into A. All right, so my X is A, my Y here is 3. So A and 3. Okay, that's quick and easy. A and 3. All right. And then we just input all this whole thing into this one to do the calculation. So this one of G will be 0, right? And then this one G will be 8 times 0 plus 12 times 7, right? So that's 0, so that's 84, right? And then G here will be 8 times 12 plus 12 times 0 will be 96, okay? And then this G here will be 8 times 8 plus 12 times 3. So let's see how much is that. 64 plus 36, right? So on that one is 100. So 100, that is the max, okay? You want to find the maximum in here for the Z. So this one is the max. All right, so that's how you solve this type of questions. So the max here will be 100 when X is 8, Y here is 3, right? So that's your max in this case. Okay, you do also have to come back to answer this very carefully for X and Y, right? And then how much is your max? Okay. All right, let's see what else. Okay, so last one right here. I think that's the last one for 5.3. Yeah, that's the last one. Okay, so 5.3 basically is pretty much the application for all the chapter 4 and 5, pretty much, right? And this one should be, not that much concept compared to the previous one. I think that it should be relatively easy, in my opinion. Okay. Similar. Oh, we just did this one. Okay, is any other thing? I think that's it. Oh, this is a different one. Okay, last one right here. Using the graphing method to solve this linear program. Okay, so basically very, very similar. You can see this type of question are very, very similar, right? Even just the number a little bit different, but the method is really, really similar. So graphing become a very, very important part in here. Okay, we have a G is 6x plus 7y. And again, we need to have an X is positive, Y is also positive. So this is the fourth quadrant, right? Fourth quadrant in here. And we're gonna have okay, we're gonna call this is line 1, right? Line 1 here is 2x plus 3y need to be less than or equal to 12. Okay, and you can solve for the y and then 12 minus 2x divided by 3. So this is y1, right? And then your line 2 here will be 2x plus y is less than or equal to 8. And you want to find a maximum. You want to max the z. Okay, so we're gonna solve this y2. Y2 will be 8. Oh, equation is 1. So your y2 here will be just 8 minus 2x, right? And then you can put it in a calculator to graph it. Okay, so my y1 here is blue. Okay, so I'm gonna put a y1 here is blue, and my y1 here is 12 minus 2x, 12 minus 2x divided by 3, I guess. Yeah, 12 minus 2x divided by 3. So that's my y1, right? So my 1, if you want, you can go ahead graph this one. So that's your y1 in here, right? And then you go to y2. So my y2 here is great. Okay, my y2 here will be just 8 minus 2x. 8 minus 2x. Okay, and then graph. Oh, so this is my y2, right? So if you want to do a little bit sketch, you y1, line 1 is something like that, right? And then your y2 is something like that, okay? All right, and then you can go to figure out the intercept in here. So this is your line 2 or your y2, okay? Line 2, y2, and then this is your L1 or your y1 in here. All right, so now you go to look at to see which one will be the interest region. Apparently, this point 0 and 0 is not on the line, so that's why I like to use 0 and 0 to do the testing point, right? So this will be less than or less than. So if I plug a 0 in, 0 less than 12, yes. So this one will be under here, okay, under here, and only in Q1, right? And then the 92 will be 0, 0 less than 8 is true. So the intersection will be only right here, okay? So this is not interest. Oh. Okay, so yeah, so the only interest in here, this is our region. So we want to call this is A, B, and P again, or you can call ABC, whatever you want. Okay, so we're gonna go to set up the AB. So the key here is we have a Z here is 6x plus 7y, and we want to maximize this one. So we do have a 0 and 0 in here, right? We have a 0 and 0. Okay. And then we're going to have a point A, we're going to have a point B, and then we're going to have a point P in here. Okay. So let's go to look at A. A here. So where's the A here? A here is a line 1 with the Y axis. Okay. A here, I'm going to write down a little bit. A here is line 1. So the A here, X will be 0, right? So that's the Y intercept. And then we're gonna use the y1 in here, y1 in here. So when x is 0, this will be 12 divided by 3 will be 4. Okay, and what is your b here? Well, your b here is your b here is right here. Your b here is line 2 on the x, so your y will be 0. Your y will be 0. Okay, that's it. That's your B point. So B point, you need to look at the L2. L2, Y will be 0, right? Y will be 0. So you have a 2x plus 0 equal to 8. So x will be 4. All right, so that is your A and B. Now, how do you find your P? How do you find your P here? Well, again, you can use the matrix, right? So if I want to use the matrix in here, I write down in the matrix 2x plus 3y equal to 12. And then 2x plus 1y equal to 8. Okay, actually this one you can do that by hand really easy. You don't have to do the matrix because you have the 2x right here. So this one will be really easy to do that by hand. You just multiply this by -1 and you do the subtraction or do the addition, right? So this will be canceled out. This will be 3y minus y will be 2y. 12 minus 8 will be 4. So y will be 2, right? And then you plug the first one right here. This y x will be 12. Or I can plug it into the second one, even easier. Okay, if you want to do the matrix, that's fine, but I just thought you don't really have to plug the matrix in here, right? So using the second one, 2x plus y equal to 8. And then 2x will be equal to 6 minus 2 on both sides, x will be 3. So we have a 3 and 2, 3 and 2 in here. So this intersection point here is 3 and 2. Okay, 3 and 2. And then we go to find the y. Of course, the first one will be 0. The second one, g, will be 6 times 0 plus 7 times 8, right? So that's 28. This one is 6 times 4 plus 7 times 0. So this one will be 24. This one, g, will be 6 times 3 plus 7 times 2, right? So that's 18 plus 14. So that's 32. So this one is the max. All right, so that is the max in here. Okay, so your max here is 32, but you do have a 232 in here. So you do have to find your x and y very carefully, right? So the maximum is 32, but which one is the correct one? Or if x actually be 2, y will be x will be 3, y will be 2. I'm sorry. X will be 3, y will be 2. So that should be the D, not a C. Okay, so 7 should be the x is 3, y is 2. For the maximum is 32. All right, so that's it. That's just like all we have. So this one I showing you how to using the calculator to solve the matrix is really easy. Look at that. The first step one. So step one, you have to go to the matrix. Okay, and then go to edit. All right, to input, to input the matrix, right? So the matrix size here is row by column. Okay, you input a row, so usually you have a 2 by 3, 2 rows, 3 columns. Okay, and then you input a matrix. And then the step 2 here, you go to the matrix. Okay, this time you go to math. All right, and then go to find a row reference, RREF. Okay, and then go to the matrix. All right, and then you need to go to using the DEM to input a DEM for this one. So like a RREF matrix A, right? And then you hit enter and everything. If you have a 1, 0, doesn't have a compass. Okay, if you have a 1, 0, and then equal to A, 0, 1 equal to B, so that means it's X equal to A, Y equal to B. That's it. That's the solution. All right, so that should be really easy to using a matrix to solve the even you can solve like this kind of equation, right? Even for the chapter 4, okay, even for this kind of any kind of equation you can write down as the matrix and then using this matrix to solve. Yeah, using this matrix to solve. Okay. All right. Hopefully this will give you a little bit booster for the how to use the calculator. Will be really, really helpful. Okay. Any questions? I'm going to stop the recording. Anyone has any questions?